Now, recently I was thinking about an article I saw, maybe it was a couple of years ago, maybe you guys saw it too. It was regarding Baldur's Gate 3 before it actually released, and specifically talking about the player statistics and how by far the most popular player build was a sort of generic warrior guy. Now, great job to Larian and so on. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a pretty great game, but I remember a lot of discourse around this and related to this idea was very negative, and thinking more about it, I kind of wonder why. Now, there's a lot of political nonsense tied up with this. I don't really want to go down the is magic gay rabbit hole. That's for you wizards out there to decide. But I do kind of wonder what the appeal of being the sort of default is, or alternatively, what is wrong with being the default. Now, specifically, I think that article was more about the character's look rather than class design choices, but I do think both of them tie together in some way, and I definitely have heard this kind of take before, where people picking the sort of default warrior, human male warrior, is good or bad in some way. Now, what do I mean by default exactly? I mean you're the guy. You're the guy with the sword. You're the heavy armor, sword and board, tanky guy who does what's got to be done, who smashes the baddies, and that's that. You're the warrior, the soldier, the fighter, maybe a paladin as well. You're not the sniper or the pistol guy. You're the one with a rifle and a shotgun, or maybe a rocket launcher. I think we all kind of have an idea of what that guy is, even if it's not that specific and can vary a lot between games. And maybe deep down, we all want to be like that guy, at least a little bit. For me, while I do enjoy playing kind of talker or magic type characters, more often than not, I do sometimes just want to lay back, let loose a little bit, and be that guy who just gets things done, doesn't really fuck around. It's very relieving to be no nonsense, honestly. Maybe you guys disagree with me here. Actually, everyone I know plays a sneaky wizard rogue scientist who talks to every bad guy into being friends. But, stats don't lie, boys. Look up almost any RPG with a fairly standard assortment of classes that actually makes these stats available. And you'll see that by far the most popular choice is always some sort of big, heavy warrior, or maybe like a paladin. Consider the reaction people had to Diablo 4 not including the Paladin in the base game, or the overwhelmingly positive response to, if you guys remember that Elder Scrolls Online trailer where they went to Brittany or something like that, where the generic sort of light knightly looking guy absolutely bodies this diverse assortment of non-fighter sort of classes. Even in MMOs, the most popular class is almost always a warrior or paladin type. In WoW, the warrior and the paladin have consistently ranked at the top, or at least near top, basically since release. And in Final Fantasy XIV, it's similar. In non-fantasy and sci-fi games, the situation is also pretty similar. By far, the most popular builds are sort of soldier or gunman adjacent types. Now, I did a bit of research on this, mainly by making bait posts on V, and I got a lot of different answers as to why this is the case. It's the most badass design. No one wants to be the twinkie elf, manlet dwarf, or nerdy wizard. The warrior with armor is a fucking badass and masculine. That's because RPGs are a genre that's meant to be about a guy with a sword killing people and have been subverted by F-words playing dress up, just like how tabletops are meant to be mechanical challenges that have been subverted by theater kids. Short like a woman, fat like a woman, holds grudges like a woman, likes jewelry like a woman, bearded like the man she'll never be, Reddit's favorite fantasy race, the humble dwarf. No, you have to pick the reformed succubus who uses her power of the voice, or the Latinx elf bard that also dances to her own salsa music, or the wheelchair-bound, handy-capable rogue dwarf. Okay, fine, he's your knight, but he fights with matcha whisks and organically recycled plastic shields. This is actually pretty... I actually like these ideas, to be honest. I've always wanted to see an RPG that was based off of the, I don't know, like the 2010s, early 2020s sort of progressive California, Toronto continuum of sort of people you see there. I guess a little bit like Yick, but more serious. I mean, Yick was kind of serious, I guess. But if Yick was like a fantasy, I would like to see that. I want to see the Yick sequel that's a fantasy and takes itself seriously. I don't want to see something I want to see something made by, like, actually these people. I don't want to see something made by some chuddy type guy, because they'll just make everything so on the nose and purposefully being, like, offensive. I like something taking it seriously, but that's, like, a little bit offensive as well. I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be kind of cool. Human male fighter. Yeah, rock on, dude. Let's see what else. Le generic big guy with a sword. Tell me you are some limp-wristed int bitch wizard boy without actually admitting to it. What are you, gay? Psst. STR plus int. Yeah, that's how you do it. I'm more the STR plus charisma type guy, but I do respect the battle lich sort of build. You know, I think this is a cool playstyle as well. The battle mage, but like a heavy frontline battle mage, not like a rear line sorcerer type guy. I always play dwarf if available. This guy should talk with this guy. Night chads are literally carrying gaming. I mean, it's true. It's true. How can you hate what's true? Race doesn't matter. Sex, never had it. Hybrid theory, put on repeat. Either the heaviest armor possible or occult robes, face fully covered. Yep, it's gaming time. To be honest, I like this as well. I play like this as well. It's a fantasy adventure. Why not play as a knight? Wizards are mentors, archers are allies, necromancers are villains, the knights are heroes. It's highly likely the game will at some point ask me to slay a dragon. I want to prepare appropriately. You know what? Like, this is the most logical take, and this is kind of my take as well. Whenever possible, I play as a wizard. Problem is that a lot of the time robes don't look as cool as they should. Don't play wizards in soul likes because the combat system isn't interesting that way. You need to be able to plan long ahead to have a wizard class to be good. Otherwise, it's just like using a gun. Okay, yeah, I kind of agree with that. I find a lot of games really drop the ball when it comes to like clothing and armor for like cloth wearers. A lot of games do great like work on the plate or mail or heavy armor. Like many games that like are fantasy, I should say, they put a lot of effort into the heavy armor. Maybe if you're lucky, they will have some good looking light armor too, like some leather or some other kind of light armors. It's less common though, I think. A lot of times I find leather or light armors just look like boring, kind of brown, gray, sloppy, and not great. but it's still more common. And the last one, always the least favored one, is like cloth. Any kind of cloth armor, like cloth armor always gets shit on. So I think if you want to look nice and dress up, if you want to play dress up dolls for boys, definitely going heavy armor user is always the best option. I love playing non-humans. Okay, here we got our Scaly, and he has to post his fucking lizard. Ideally, not even humanoid at every opportunity, like A's, felines, dragons, lizards, elemental golems, machines. Or I play human exclusively if there's no other option. Don't care about elves, dwarves, hobbits, gnomes, fairies, undead, demons, or angels. What do you call this sort of preference? I don't know. I guess autistic? I guess a furry? I don't know. Like, sounds like a furry to me. Neglected by your mother, if I got my science right. For me, it's a paladin, my first choice in RPG. Also orc race, if possible, for that combo. You know what, I really do like paladins as well, but an orc paladin is just fucking disgusting. No, I picked generic big guy with a halberd. Sword chuds are fucking retarded. When people start wearing plate armor in the medieval, you think people used Le Zweilander against them? No, they were using pole arms, halberds, lucerne, and very long weapons that symbolized their long dicks. They were crushing the plate-wearing knights. If you use a sword, you're playing an unrealistic and unimmersive game, and you need to use a halberd or a lucerne now. I mean, this guy's kind of wrong. I mean, the knights... Were they using, like, long weapons? I mean, I guess they did, too, especially if they're on a horse. But, I mean, most of the time they were using, like, blunt weapons, right? I mean, a spear, what's that? Is that really going to be that effective against a plate armor user, like a halberd? I mean, maybe a halberd or, like, a long hammer, because you got a lot of mass kind of falling down. So I think that would be good. But I feel like using, like, a warhammer is, like, the ideal counter to a plate-wearing guy. And even then swords, I mean, people did use swords a lot, but it's more like a sidearm rather than the main weapon. I mean, obviously any knight is going to be carrying multiple weapons on him, so maybe the warhammer would be the main weapon, and then a sword would be like a sidearm to kind of, first of all, show his nobility, of course, but also to pull out to chop up any unwashed plebs. You know, the sword is going to be a lot better for that than the hammer. Sexy female, race irrelevant, spellcaster. Oh yeah, it's gaming time. You know, I mean, I usually don't pick a female character in a game. I mean, sometimes I do. But usually it's not my first pick, and it might be for like another playthrough to have a bit more, I don't know, like diversity with the kind of like play styles. But usually I won't, not for a first playthrough at least. RPG with a million choices for character design. Nothing good except for big guy with a sword. It's something different isn't good enough to make me pick it. Yeah, I agree with this. A lot of RPGs try too hard to give you too many different options, and they just end up being really boring. Actually, thinking about an RPG that had pretty unique options for class designs, I really like Pillars of Eternity. I mean, I don't know what people feel about it. I know a lot of people, when Pillars of Eternity 2 came out, a lot of people really hated it. And yeah, it had that kind of mid-2010s RPG style, just like Shadowrun Hong Kong, where all the characters would just like vomit their entire life story on you when you try to talk to them, and that was like a little bit overwhelming. I think I didn't really like that. I don't like too much talking, especially when I just want to kind of move on. Like, it's different if I'm like prodding them to learn more. Like, if I really want to know your story and I'm like poking you and like, oh, please tell me more, I want to hear about this interesting character, that's kind of different. But when it's like I'm trying to do anything and I'm getting like a fucking lecture from the bartender, I don't like that. But I did like Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 a lot, and I really like the class designs in that. You have some generic classes, you know, like some fighters and wizards, but you also have ones like the Cypher, and I really like the Cypher as like a magic class, a magic adjacent class. Same with the Chanter too. I like the Chanter. I like any kind of class that's almost like a bard, but like more like a classical idea of the bard, where they're like speaking and chanting and singing the spells almost, and that's how the magic works. So I like both those classes a lot, and I really like the Cypher. That's the most fun class by far to play Pillars of Eternity with. Click song, create a character, click out in 5 seconds. All right, I'm done, guys. Let's play. Yeah, I feel like this guy, Jack, is the like ideal big guy with a sword, the Giga Chud fighter. This is such a good game, by the way. This is such a really good game. This is one of the only recent Final Fantasy games that I enjoyed. Like, Chud still picked the generic big guy with the sword. I'm old enough now to have seen the average player in D&D has changed over time. It's to the point where the generic human male fighter is no longer generic by sheer virtue of rarely being chosen by anyone. Everyone always has to be some kind of unique special race with severe main character syndrome in the most generic backstory ever of trauma and hidden power and great willpower, defying gods or demons, etc., etc. Every single one. I've been in groups where every single person has chosen some form of edgelord tiefling, but really, I just like the simple guy with an armor and sword. It's an age-old hero story, and it's common for a reason. It's a classic. Yeah, I mean, this kind of gets to the core of my point, too, where I feel like the generic and the default is so, like, disdained by a lot of people who play, like, RPGs, that it's kind of become not default. It's kind of become cool in a way. And I mentioned, again, that trailer for Elder Scrolls Online that had such a huge positive opinion over just the guy in like armor, just because he was like fighting cool and big and beating everyone up, you know. And that was like, it was interesting because it's something that you haven't seen in like probably like a decade or two now, like honestly seen like in a genuine kind of like way that it hasn't really been done in a while. So I like that a lot, and I kind of agree with this. Everyone wants to be the special guy who's like chosen and has this deep well of power, and they just need to be let loose. They just need someone to open them up, man. They need to be let out from the chains that bind them. They just need to bite the hand that feeds them. But you know, some of us still want to be the rat in the cage, you know. I like to play a wizard, but I always, when I use teleport spell to instantly travel hundreds of kilometers, I hear knights and other fighters snicker. He cannot afford a steed. What do I say without sounding mad? You know what? Just like charge them. They laugh until it comes time to teleport to the main city or teleport to some dungeon, and then, you know, it's like, pay up, bro. That's how every wizard made their money in classic WoW, you know? What can I say? I like the idea of a guy who's got nothing but grit and determination, fighting above his weight class, no special snowflake powers, no gods empowering, just a guy who keeps cutting back up and over and over again. This is the coolest shit ever. Plus, I like the aesthetics of knights, warriors, Vikings, etc. It's cool. Even from a looks perspective, the ideas behind them: honor, virtue, no fear in the face of death, a warrior's death even. Always the hypest moments in any movie where the basic simply warrior faces down death heroically. Boromir is an easy example, is remembered fondly for good reason. They're just cool. Yeah, I mean, again, gets to kind of my core point there. So you see, I got a lot of answers, some common ones being that warrior-type builds tend to be mechanically simpler, that they fulfill a nerdy power fantasy, that being a warrior or soldier just kind of feels more heroic, and really, especially in a party-based game, they seem like more suitable to be the party leader. I've also seen some comments about how often it makes more sense narratively for the adventurer in a lot of games, or even that playing a sneak or like a talker or like a magic user just feels a little bit too feminine for a lot of gamers. And also that magic is gay. Simple as. All of these ideas seem pretty reasonable to me, but I'd still like to dig in deeper. First, regarding the idea that warrior-type melee builds tend to be mechanically simpler. While I don't necessarily agree, like in terms of the actual mechanics of the game, how you actually play it, I do think that a lot of them tend to be fairly consistent across different games. Lots of RPGs keep similar ideas to how melee combat works, which means anyone who has some experience with an RPG in general should be able to pick up a fairly straightforward melee class quite easily and learn the unique mechanics of the game. Meanwhile, magic systems tend to be very drastically different across games and might require a bit more research into how actually playing a mage works, or how the magic in this game really works. So I kind of get the feeling, even if there are a load of RPGs with great combat systems. All that being said, in my opinion, melee characters tend to be more mechanically focused, and more focused on things like positioning, maybe holding aggro, managing enemies efficiently to avoid being overwhelmed. It's often a very sort of methodical type of gameplay, which is contrasted by the more, I guess, glass cannon play style of the very typical mage, who is either killing everyone or being killed instantly by basically a strong gust of wind. Or alternatively, the sort of like passive-aggressive type of gameplay, which many roguish type characters fulfill, where combat is often very indirect, obfuscated. You're never really facing down the enemy like you are when you're just the big guy with the big sword. Now, being the big guy with the big sword doesn't mean you can just like cut down infinity enemies with no cares. In many cases, it can be a lot more challenging than multi-classed min-max sort of builds. In general, these sorts of warrior or soldier type classes also tend to be more gear focused, I think, than others, which tends to suit people who enjoy that sort of carefully planning play style and kitting out their characters for battle rather than just relying on their stats or all these magic abilities they have. It's just a different type of play style, and I definitely get that idea. I like hoarding gear. I like building up gear, building up my character in that way, so I definitely get it. A more interesting idea for me is that of the warrior just feeling more heroic. While I guess anything can be a nerdy power fantasy, like being the scrawny wizard who can still blow up huge hordes of muscular warriors with just a huge fucking brain, I still think it is true that the idea of a big noble warrior using a sword just kind of fits that archetype of what a traditional hero should be. At least way better than the wizard. As for any arguments to the contrary, I don't care. No one except unhinged people hear the words Sorcerer King and think, wow, he must be a trustworthy, kind, and honest ruler. If you're telling me you don't agree with that, then you're just kind of wrong. I'm sorry. You just know the disheveled, sullen guy in a tower is not thinking about what's best for the common man. I think this is even more true when you're playing a game where your party is more important. You know, in any party-based RPG, the party is like a family. And a good family should have a father or the tank at its head, the mother, the healer, and the kids, the DPS and support. It's just a wholesome, well-ordered structure. Imagine a party of all wizards. It would just be utter chaos and a disordered mess, which, while probably pretty fun, would definitely not be an archetypal ideal. Not to mention, if you consider the literary idea of a questing knight, the knight is never really alone. He's got his whole little support team of squires, cooks, mule drivers, and the like to get his shit on the road. So it kind of suits that idea of the noble knight going out on a quest with his retinue of followers as well. From a more personal standpoint, while I do tend to enjoy talky type characters, just due to my natural Irish tendency towards being a big loudmouth, I also dislike being in the backline, so to speak, in most RPGs. I just find it kind of boring, to be honest. Now, through multiple playthroughs, it's one thing to try out different playstyles, but in general, I do think the big melee guy with maybe a bit of charisma or some magic out of pocket for a bit more flavor is the most satisfying playstyle. I mean, nothing really beats crushing your enemies and seeing them driven before you at the end of the day. Same goes for more modern or sci-fi settings where guns are the main weapon. A brick shithouse hunting down some scum and taking them in an honest shootout hits that same sort of feeling. I also sometimes really just hate solving puzzles. I'm really bad at solving puzzles. Anyone who's seen one of my streams knows I suck at puzzle solving. Or finding some tricky situation to a dilemma. Often it just feels like more satisfying on a primal level to just blow up the door instead of trying to steal the guard's keys. In Fallout 2, for example, I can be a wimp and try to barter with the den slavers, or I can just blast them to hell back where they belong and rid the world of a major issue permanently. Simply being decisive, making hard black and white decisions, and dealing with the consequences, all of this plays into the almost paternal image of the warrior or like the knight, soldier, etc.
What are you doing? Is this how you honor the sixth house and the tribe unmourned? What a fool. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. Shame on you.
As a quick aside, what about some of these warrior adjacent type characters? What makes like a barbarian or a paladin type character different from the sort of fighter warrior I mentioned? For the barbarian, I think these are really closely aligned and often mixed together thematically a little. You might be able to blame Conan the Barbarian for that, honestly. I kind of imagine the barbarian as sort of lacking the same nobility and spirit of the warrior, relying more on his brutal cunning or cunning brutality rather than his just skill and nice gear. Basically, a barbarian is just the warrior but dirty and can't really hold a conversation that well. However, that being said, I think my ultimate favorite trope in any kind of fantasy game, literature, whatever, is the silver-tongued barbarian. I think that is like the best thing. And again, that's just because I'm a big fan of Conan the Barbarian. I think that just that's always a character I really love, and that's kind of my favorite character to play as well. For the paladin, the sort of noble and honorable tendencies of the warrior are just turned up to max, and his big focus is on being just a huge tank who protects the rest of the party, rather than necessarily a killing machine. And this really, in my opinion, makes him the peak dadcore class. It's really no wonder that every game which offers a paladin as an option, it instantly becomes the most popular choice by far. It's just instinctual, just like clerics being natural bottoms. As for warrior, mage types, and other sort of mixed classes, it's really hard to diagnose them, as every game handles them a bit differently. I don't really think there is a fine line where the magic becomes too much. A lot of fantasy warriors or sci-fi soldiers have some sort of support skills to get them a little boost in combat. Whether it be consumables or a few spells or even a few ranged options, I think the real dividing line is when you step away firmly from the front line and become just like a filthy DPS drone, or worse, some backline wimp. So basically the avatar of Ultima is still based in red pilled, despite knowing how to read. Now you may ask yourself, what is the point of this video? For me to just tell you things you already know, plus my own feelings on why cool things are cool? Well, that's basically every video on YouTube today, isn't it? For me, I just think sometimes it's good to imagine yourself in a world where you can just freely be that guy, unrestrained by the weak liberals and wizards, and just kill things without thinking too hard about it. I say go and load up a good CRPG today. Just make a good, no-nonsense human male fighter and have a good time with it. Be the isekai protag you were born to be. And remember guys, if you like the kind of content I make here, remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. But either way, guys, I'll see you again next time. So goodbye, everyone.